Like the church could potentially be dying. 75% of kids are falling away. Where's the church during those, Monday through Friday? Like, I don't understand why they're missing this prime opportunity for missions and ministry. There's a Supreme Court ruling that states that every school across the state of Kansas and in every state is required by law to allow students to leave and be dismissed for religious instruction throughout the school day.
If you're curious about what is trending in Christian education, you've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Dalena Wallace, homeschool mom, microschool leader, and education missionary. And this is Wise and Otherwise, where we are sharing real stories from the front lines of a growing movement in Christian education. Stories of pastors, parents, and everyday believers stepping up in new ways to shape the next generation. From microschools to school boards, we'll explore how the church can lead in education again, creatively, affordably, and in true partnership with families. If you've ever wondered what role you can play, I hope these conversations help you find your next step. It is wise for the church to get involved in leading education. Otherwise, who will? Come on, Christians, let's lead the way and redeem education for the glory of God.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emmi McCabe, and I run the marketing for Heartland Education Reformation organization. Welcome to another episode of the Wise and Otherwise podcast. And today I'm actually interviewing our very own founder and president and regular host of Wise and Otherwise, Dalena Wallace. Hi, Dalena. How are you doing today?
Hi, Emmy. I'm great. Thanks so much for being the host today.
Yeah, no, this is such a pleasure. I thought today would be a great time to talk about just the amazing things we've done this year with regards to funding Christian education. Just like the impact has been so amazing. But first, let's take it back to where it all started. I actually remember our very first conversation about this where I first found out what you were thinking, and it was at the Milk Float coffee shop in downtown Wichita. Very beautiful. And I remember you talking about scholarships for some of our Christian micro schools for another network you were president of. So do you want to talk about that a little bit for us? How did this all start?
Yeah, absolutely. When we were meeting that day, we were just talking about schools in general and what is happening in the area, throughout Kansas, specifically in Wichita. Just seeing a ton of these amazing, diverse school models, and it's very exciting. And I think it's something I can 100% get behind. I want parents to have access to the school that fits their child and aligns with their own personal values. And I think that's very important. However, when I was to the point of wanting to begin a scholarship fund or raising money and really advocating for these schools to get additional funding, I felt it was so important to invest my time, my personal time and energy into really working for those schools that also align with my own personal beliefs and values. And as much as I think that that's what every family needs to do, I know that not every family is going to have the same Christian conservative faith values that I have, and that's okay. But when it came to me really running with this and advocating for this, I just really felt like there are, at the time, I knew about 10 to 12 Christian school founders who were really struggling with financing their school and their operation and getting the enrollment and having students be able to afford their tuition. And they were Christians and they were out there. And I'm like, you guys are like missionaries. You're on the mission field. Where's the support? Is your church supporting you? And they would say, well, no, we haven't even really talked about it with our pastor. So that really was what got my wheels turning. It was like, I know there's a lot of schools out there. I know they're struggling to find the funding. I really feel compelled to help on a missional level, to help with Christian schools and especially these small startup schools. And so that's where everything started to take shape from there.
Yeah, and I just wanted to know too, it's kind of ironic because a lot of these Christian school founders, they taught in the public school and then they felt called by God to start something Christian. But then And, like, create that safe environment for, Christian kids to, like, learn about the faith and, um, just be loved and know more about Christ. And it's just funny, like, they're called to that, but then at the same time, like, once they start and they do it, they feel so alone in it, right? When really they should be supported and propped up by our church community. But also, remember one of the things you had pointed out, like, there's so much funding or potential funding and opportunities for non-Christian schools. I remember even looking at some of the scholarships because I was trying to research, like, how can we make this just whole micro school movement in general sustainable? Because I believe in the movement, whether it's Christian or not. I think micro is the way to go, especially when it comes to raising children or educating children, because it's more reflective of the family unit, right? And kids just get more. And I remember when I was looking at some of the scholarships, they would specifically say it has to be non-religious. And
Mm.
that was just like that, like, so many of our schools were Christian. So that was great. Then, like, just like less than a year later, you're like, oh, I'm starting Hero.
Yeah.
So that's been just so amazing.
And
Yeah.
I don't like begrudge those organizations or foundations that might want to only invest in the non-religious schools, because to me, I feel like that makes sense. If that's their own personal, alignment and mission alignment, and it's finding the people who that they identify that they want to support, of course that makes sense. But then there's this whole side, there's this whole body of believers that are out there that also feel, um, you know, like responsible, because it is our responsibility to not only go and share Christ and share the love of Christ with our own families, with our own congregation, but also within our community at a missional level. And so that's the demographic that I'm seeking there when I'm looking for expanding our donor base. It's like I know that there are Christians who believe in this mission and who know the importance and the significance of a Christian education and having a safe, loving, biblically grounded learning environment. And so it just makes perfect sense to me that churches who are mission aligned with these schools should partner together and help and provide funding and scholarships. So that's kind of what I'm running with right now.
No, and that's amazing, right? Like, I think the whole goal of Hero, you've been talking a lot about it, is to just really activate the church and let them know, right? And setting the stakes. I wanted to mention, some of our viewers out there. I don't know if you know, recently there was a study both from the Barna Group and USA Today that found that 75% of children raised in Christian homes leave the faith by the time they end high school. So, going back again to those scholarships, right? Like, there are scholarships for Christian schools in the undergraduate level, right? Like college, but there isn't much K through 12. And I don't know if, like, people just don't know that. Like, the church could potentially be dying. 75% of kids are falling away. And a key reason that these studies have identified is that intellectual skepticism, right? And especially, like, some the public education environment sometimes, not all the time, sometimes is hostile to um, Christianity and Christian principles. And the the study said that it's just the kids who fall away, they have a lack, there's no space for them to safely express their doubts about the faith
Mm,
and
yeah,
still be encouraged in their faith. Does that make sense? And the number one place where they get that is the home or church youth ministry, right?
yeah,
And so this is where Hero comes in, because now you're like, well, we need more schools that'll
right.
actually provide this safe place for them.
Right. And I look at these schools as an extension of the church's ministry. So a youth group might meet one night a week, or they might have Sunday school classes on Sunday morning, but you have 5 days during the week where students are required by law to be, it's compulsory education. So they have to be educated somewhere. So why not be educated with either within a church or in partnership with the church? Like, where's the church during those, Monday through Friday? Like, I don't understand why they're missing this prime opportunity for missions and ministry.
Yeah, definitely. But thanks to Hero, in just like a little over a year, we've had just such an amazing impact. And I want to just take a minute here to brag a little bit because this is just like a testament, not just to like, I think Hero team's effort and your effort and partnerships, but really like a lot of the churches have jumped on board and have just taken such a leadership role in supporting Christian education. So just want to uh, brag that out right now. For example, just in the past year alone, we've already given out over $100,000 in scholarships across many different families in Kansas. 11 students received the scholarships for our 2025 Hero Film premiere, and that was $14,900 awarded. 40 students received the Hero Matching Scholarship. So this is amazing because that means there were churches that matched, committed something, right? Like they committed funding this child's education and then Hero matched their commitment. And so from that, we have given or we have distributed $56,728 worth of scholarships. And then 51 students received Hero Financial Hardship Scholarships for 2024-2025. And the total for that was $30,550. So that's just been so amazing. We have 25 supporting churches. And again, this just launched. And I think the matching scholarship was like what I mean, I know we've been active for a little over a year, but I feel like the matching scholarship fund was a matter of like months, like 2 or 3 month campaign. And we got 25 churches like just jumped on board. 20 churches pledged scholarships, and 5 of those are official church partners for 2025-2026. So that's amazing.
Yes. Praise
Yeah.
the Lord. I am so happy. I'm so thrilled with that. And to see the growth, to see the awareness, to see the church being activated and getting engaged. One of the amazing things that came about through that campaign of the matching scholarship, again, we were looking for pledges from pastors who committed. Like you said, they were committing to help support financially one of the students or several students to attend any of our hero school. And so getting pastors to recognize the opportunity and then hero to come alongside and double their impact and vice versa. Like we have limited funds as well with the hero funding, the scholarship fund. And so to partner with the church, and that has been so excited. One of the things that I love is that at least one of the churches initiated, they started a scholarship fund of their own to continue in this effort on a regular basis. They're going to start pouring into a scholarship fund for students to attend Christian schools. So if we can do anything like that to motivate churches and pastors, I feel like all of our work, everything is just so worth it because that means that Christian education is becoming more affordable and accessible, and that the church is recognizing their role in this. And one of those roles, at least, would be the financial support. So
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Wise and Otherwise. We'd like to ask you to take a minute and please rate and review our podcast so that others can learn more about us and just to continue to show your support for this work that we're doing. It would mean so much. So please, if you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, take a minute and give us a good review.
For sure. Yeah. And so have you heard from any of the parents, like who this has impacted? I mean, I would love to hear some of those stories.
yeah. And not only the parents, I have the sweetest notes and cards. I get these things in the mail
Oh
from
my God.
students. I know that those who are just listening to us and aren't watching the video can't see, but we have like the cutest like artwork and people who are so thankful and writing to us and sending cards. I'll read from a few of the cards I've gotten. Thank you so much for your extremely generous scholarship gift. We cannot wait to be able to bless three of our incredible families. And that was from Rise Academy. They had some applications for the financial hardship scholarships, and they knew of families. And that's another thing. Like we know that our members, our hero members that we serve, they are deeply involved in the lives of their families and their students. And they're so intimately connected. They know who is struggling financially. And so being able to be a resource for them and have some funding available for them when there's a need, that's a huge blessing. Another is I cannot thank you all enough for the amazing help for our school and these families who are working so hard to keep their children here. Your generosity has let many people be able to take a deep breath. And then just another quick note, your blessing comes at such a great time for these families. And that was one of them was for the over the holidays. You know, we realize there's families who are struggling maybe just to make tuition from month to month, let alone have anything for gift giving around the holidays. And so we extended our scholarship program specifically during that time. And it was a blessing. Um, when we're hearing from families and the school founders that we serve, our hero members, what we're learning is that we have like three examples here. One, a student was being raised by their grandma because their mom had recently passed away from cancer. And so this grandma had taken on every burden and responsibility of raising this child. And so if we can be of assistance as she's trying to put her child in this safe, biblical, Christian environment, of course, that's important. Of course, that's necessary that we come alongside them. Another was a single mother who had recently been released from prison and who'd been out for a few years. And the school was working in partnership with her to help get reestablished. And so being able to offer the financial help she needed. And then another tragic case, but a single dad whose wife had actually been murdered. And so he was suffering from trauma, excuse me, and his child, and they, obviously wanted to be in a safe environment at that time. So a lot of really great testimonies that we're hearing from families and from our hero members who are in direct contact with the students and parents. It's been a blessing.
That's so amazing. Yeah, it's just like really encouraging when we hear these stories of like what's actually changing in the personal lives of these families. And I know, we're talking a lot. I think a big trend is it's a lot of like public school families, right, that want to find um Christian education or want to have Christian education for their children, but they can't afford it, right? But there's also like another side to that coin where you came from, right? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about your story and like you represent a different demographic and maybe just letting people know they're not alone?
Yeah, of course. So, from my perspective as a homeschooling mom, of course, when you hear from families and you start talking about education and you get into conversations about the limited opportunity that families have to educate their children in a Christian environment, you'll get some pushback from homeschool families. They would say, well, any family can homeschool. Like there's always the option to homeschool and that's not expensive. And I wish it were that easy, and I wish we could just say, like, okay, that's great. If you don't want to send your kid to a public school, just homeschool them. And you can provide everything that you need for your student. And I feel like homeschool moms personally take on a lot of that burden. And something we hear a lot, this scripture is the reference to Deuteronomy 6. And it's always talking about, training up your children in the way that they should go. And so for some reason, that message really seems to land heavily on the homeschooling mom, as if the Lord was speaking directly to a homeschool mom and saying, you train up your child in the way that they should go. When really he was talking about the whole body of Christ. He was speaking to the congregation of Israel, and saying, This is for you. This is as a body, as a church, we collectively are called to educate our children. So, being a homeschool mom and realizing it's hard and it gets really heavy sometimes, and you can suffer burnout, or you just don't feel like that's your thing. And so I believe it's so important to have options and to have resources and support. And personally, I really believe in and love the hybrid model where you have part-time, classes with your community, and you're in class in person with some other teachers and students, and you're doing that together, and then you're having your other days at home when you're training your kids and teaching your kids. And so, several of our hero schools have that model, and I think it's a huge blessing. And I just believe that, we need to be creative when we think of education. And it's not like black and white or, this way or that way, right or left. It's kind of like there's so many different ways that we can do this. God is the Father. He is the God of all creation. He is the master creator. Creativity runs through everything about him and his character. And we have that same character. And we have that. We can be creative. And so to try to stifle and stuff people in certain boxes and say, well, do it this way or do it that way, I feel like that's so it's just it's discouraging for one, and it can become not the right answer. And so finding options and finding things, that's what I'm all about. I'm very much a free thinker when it comes to education. Like, how can we do this? It doesn't have to all be on me or my husband or just us as a family. Like, we can do this with others in the community. So that's part of the message of Hero, is looking for the right fit for your own family.
Right. And not even just like in terms of um, within small Christian schools, right? Like I love, like, I know some of our recent podcasts have been focused on, say, Christian school board members, right? Or like the Bible to school, like the release time.
Mhm.
So that really is just a testament to this creativity, right? That you're talking about. It's not just, like you said, it's not just education. Christian education can mean so much more.
Exactly. Yes. And Pastor Joe Voss, he is the pastor of Faith Community Church in Wichita, and he is one of our partner churches with Hero. Also, has started a scholarship fund and has been very active in these Christian schools, but not only in the Christian schools. He's also seen the need and the opportunity within the public schools, and to bless the public school teachers there, to pray over them, to bring snacks to them. And so I definitely feel like we need to be active in education, period. Like,
Yeah.
Christians have got to be on the scene. We've got to be school board members. We've got to be, in the PTA meetings. We've got to be supporting and really praying for our teachers and whatever we can do. And that release time opportunity, I feel like, is such a missed opportunity that churches aren't taking advantage of, because there's a Supreme Court ruling that states that every school across the state of Kansas and in every state is required by law to allow students to leave and be dismissed for religious instruction throughout the school day. So for an hour a day, they can actually be dismissed and get Bible instruction. So looking for these opportunities, again, just having this eye for creative sources, creative funding, creative learning environments, just being creative.
Right, definitely. And I think even with Hero ourselves, like we have our closed network, like official church partners and official Hero school partners, but it's not just like us, right? Like you don't have to be just officially part or partnered
Right.
with Hero. We want to encourage just like everybody, right? Like what you're saying. So speaking of that, I wanted to talk about like what's in the future, like what's ahead. How do we make this whole movement sustainable? First, like yes, for Hero, like what are your ideas and thoughts on that? I know right now we're being sustained, thankfully, right, by like very generous, just like a small handful of very generous private donors. I'm not exactly sure who exactly they are, but that's not necessarily sustainable. And I know you have some amazing ideas for Hero, but also maybe something that others out there who want to do something similar for Christian education in their communities, like they could use these ideas. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, really just getting the church on board with supporting, every church that I know of or that I've ever been a part of has had in their budget like a mission budget. Okay, so a line item where they already are putting funding aside specifically for the purpose of missions. And if they could only see that that amount, that fund that you already have allotted, you already have this in your budget, can actually be used in the K-12 education space because it truly is a mission field. We don't have to think of it as sending people to Africa or the Middle East or wherever it might be, a third world country or something. We can actually really truly have a strong impact in evangelizing and sharing the light and the love of Christ right in our own backyard. So that's where I feel like the sustainability is in the future because we can't just rely on a handful. And I don't particularly want everything to be about fundraising with donors or private foundations or whatever. That's important. And when we get that funding, it's incredible. But even they want to know that their funds are being multiplied, that they're having a further impact. And so it's so crucial that the body of Christ, whether it's a pastor or a congregation, just a member in a church or just any believer who recognizes this and wants to be a part of it, it's so crucial that they understand even the smallest amount, it goes a long ways. A lot of our hero schools have lower tuition than the traditional schools. And so it could be because some of them are half time, it's half price. So you're thinking $2,000 to $3,000 a year is actually like their full tuition. So if you could offer $1,000, $500, or $50 a month to help with the cost, that makes a huge difference, especially in a lot of the low income families, but even for families that have multiple kids, it's expensive. We have 6 kids of our own. We're blessed. We're able to send 3 of our kids to a Christian school here in town. But I just can't imagine. Like the cost is it's kind of out of reach for many families. So anything that we can do as a body of Christ to help with that is what we're called to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, it really has to be like a church effort, grassroots effort. So, yeah, well, this has been such an amazing episode. Thank you, Delina, and thank you to all of you listening. If you are interested and feel moved right now to, contribute to this movement, please feel free. I encourage you to go to heartlandhero.org/donate. And on that page, you can donate to a specific hero partner school. A lot of them are amazing. You can browse through there, or you can donate to Hero itself and just help spread this mission, and multiply the funds and the work that God is doing. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.